So hi, welcome to the Go Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
Hey guys, I'm Ryan.
and we're gonna ask him some questions today about his upcoming EP, Everything Except Desire. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
It's been awesome, man. I made a little music video. Well, I didn't make it. An Italian company called Scene Film made it, but we're coming up on 100,000 views, which for me, since I've started, since I've started doing stuff on my own, after Yellow Card broke up, I haven't hit anywhere near that number on anything. So, it's pretty exciting. I think people are, it's so different that I think people are 100% turned on or 100% turned off, which is cool. It's like not in the middle. It's not like where is this living between Yellow Card and whatever. This is just like you either like this or you don't,
Mhm.
And so I think for me it's a very accurate depiction of like where I'm at as an artist and a composer and a writer, a producer, all those things. I've been just kind of disconnected from rock music for a long time. I mean, even kind of the final years in Yellow Card, I was already mostly listening to like experimental EDM and composers and soundtracks and stuff. I'd kind of just, it's not to say that there's anything bad. I wasn't like, fuck rock and roll. It was more just, I don't know. My palette just really changed over the years. So with this EP, I had the time and the space to just take a lot of risks and create something that I think is again, just really very much where I'm at, as a writer and a fan of music. You can kind of hear, it's a good way to hear where I'm at as a listener as well, not just as a creator,
For sure.
For sure. I'm very happy to see that you're doing something different from what you were doing in Yellow Card, because I feel like then from a fan's perspective, it's not like you're trying to relive what you were trying to do in Yellow Card. You're just kind of doing whatever you want to do then.
Yep.
I think that's really nice. Well done on that.
I appreciate it. Even back when I started releasing music on my own in 2018, albeit that's very different from where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. But the first little acoustic EP I put out was very deliberate to say, this is, sort of the reason, the reasoning behind using my full name for the project was just really to step away from Yellow Card and separate it, because I agree. I think if I was to have tried to start a band, after Yellow Card, I just think it would have been an uphill battle with no end in sight of it sort of constantly being, not Yellow Card for people. And I didn't want to do that. So nor was that really where I was at as a musician or a listener, as I say, like a fan of music. So it's been fun. It's been a fun journey and a fun challenge, and to explore a new space musically. And I'm really proud of it, especially these 5 songs. I'm really proud of them.
Love
As
that.
you should be. It's perfect.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So is there any meaning behind the EP title or cover art?
Yeah, both actually.
Mm-hmm.
So the cover art, I made friends with an artist, a New York based artist named Justine Raymond. And it was, how did I found her on Twitter, and I know exactly how it happened. So my friend Heather Antos, who is a comic book editor and visual artist, and she's just all around. She worked for Marvel for a long time. She's big shot. She's awesome. And she was retweeting a bunch of artists on some sort of, Twitter artist appreciation day, support independent visual artists, whatever. So she was retweeting this, and I saw an image that I loved, and it was right around the time that I was making my second EP in 2018. And so I direct messaged the artist from that image on Twitter. As much as I hate social media, sometimes it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I messaged her, Justine Raymond is her name, and I said, hey, I love this style of thing. I would like to do a piece for my new EP that is Whether you may not realize how Coldplay this image you made is, or this like wasn't meant to be an album cover, the picture I saw, but it could be. I want to do something like that. That's very, very Coldplay-esque, of like just a single little image in the middle of the cover. And so I commissioned that to her, and she did such an amazing job. She went on to do the art for my little Star Wars podcast I have with my buddies Adam and Nick. She did that art for us. And so one of the pieces she had like on her Instagram from way, way, way back looks basically like the cover of Everything Except Desire. So I wanted that to be the cover, but she couldn't find the file. It was so old that she couldn't find it. And B, she has like some killer job in game. She works in gaming now. She's like a gaming designer, and she just was like, I don't have time to do it again. And I said, well, would you be okay if I had another artist sort of take inspiration from this to do it? And she said, yeah, of course. So it's really cool because I worked with both of the artists at the same time that did both of my EPs. The person who did the art for 13, my first EP, is named Brandon Stex. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, could you take this and do something like it and put your own spin on it and give it your flavor? And he said, yeah, I'd love to. Let's do it. So Brandon did sort of a version of Justine's art. So I love that because it's kind of like both of them did the cover for my new one, you know?
Yeah.
The title comes from a 90s film called Gattaca. Ethan Hawke, Jude Law, Uma Thurman. There's a really cool, there's a couple. I did two references actually. The first track on the record is called The Swim Back, and that came first. I was finding titles for instrumental tracks is always really fun because you can just do anything and kind of give it your own meaning with no lyrics. And so I immediately, when I finished that track, I thought of this scene in Gattaca where the line is, I never saved anything for the swim back. There's a scene where he and his brother, the lead character and his brother, would challenge each other to swim out in the ocean as far as they could before like risking drowning because they weren't going to be able to get back to the shore. And Ethan Hawke's character says, I've survived. I've made it this far because I never saved anything for the swim back. So I loved that. I called it The Swim Back. And I was like, I think there's another Gattaca reference. It's so cool that I'm thinking of. So I watched the movie and there's another line where he's talking about how someone didn't make it. They didn't succeed. They didn't because they had everything except desire. They had the looks, they had the build, they had the physique, they had the film is very much about like genetic modification, how we reach a time where you can choose if you can afford it, you can make your baby perfect and disease free. And that's the only way to get ahead in the world kind of thing. And so he's talking about someone who was like a perfect child, a perfect specimen, but he had no desire. And so I just thought that was a really cool concept. And I've always loved that film. So being the film nerd that I am, I squeezed both of those in there.
That's super cool.
That's amazing.
So what made you pick Face in a Frame as the lead single for the EP?
It's the first song I made for it. It's the first song. These songs were all done. I didn't do this like an album where I had, all five of them sort of in the works at the same time. Every one of these songs was finished from start to finish, mixed, mastered on its own. So I wasn't working on them. When I was making them, I didn't know it was ever going to be a release. I was kind of just creating them for Patreon, and then they were just that. I thought that was going to be the end of it. So I was just making one song a month for Patreon, and that's how these came to be. But anyways, Face in a Frame is the first one I did. And I feel like I think it's just a good introduction. I think it's a good song to sort of like set the scene for where I'm at and what the record is and you know what I mean? Like, I think people's overall, based on the people that have heard it so far, people's favorite song is Brighton, but it seems to be everybody likes Brighton the most. But I felt like Brighton's a lot. Like it's a lot to like throw at you with that crazy bass line and the like Comtrue's drums. And it's a whole experience that's like, it's a lot to swallow, a lot to digest. So I feel like Face in a Frame sort of eases you into it. It's kind of like a warm blanket of like, oh, okay, so this is electronic music. I haven't heard him do this before, but and it's got a lot of interesting sounds that keep evolving and keep you interested in the track as it evolves. And so yeah, I just thought it was a good introduction to like what I'm doing.
Okay.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this EP?
Yeah, so I'm on a mission in life to find success in scoring for film and television. That's like really where my heart's at and what I'm trying to achieve. So with every note of this record and these songs, I was conscious of that. I've learned a lot about scoring and a lot about what people are looking for, what music directors are looking for, what film editors are looking for. So I tried to be conscious of that as I was creating these songs. And I wanted them to take a lot of inspiration from, again, a lot of the sort of like experimental ambient EDM artists I love, and also a lot of the sort of neoclassical composers that I love, and just push that as hard as I could, just shove that down your throat. Like this is, I wanted it to be very cinematic. And so I spent the first part of each track building the music. I would make something that I felt like if this didn't have lyrics, it still has this big, ebb and flow, push and pull. It's great for film, great for editing too. And then I added the melody and lyrics after the fact, and tried to do really interesting things with the vocal production as well. Some of it's like really deliberate. I think if you listen to a lot of the massive, like just 10, 12 tracks of harmony that I stacked in Brighton and Heavens. But then like on Union Chapel, I took it down to just one vocal. Like, no, there's no harmony. There's no doubling the vocals. It's just the one solemn, lonely voice in the middle, and it kind of, I wanted the whole thing to like go, go, go. And Heavens sort of being the most pop song on the record, it's kind of like upbeat all the way to the end. And then just kind of come down to this like really sad, broken finale. And give the whole thing that sort of feeling of like scenes, and so I having the freedom to just like go crazy with the production and just do whatever I want. It just like turn all those knobs back there until I found crazy sounds that I love, that's how all these songs came to be. It was just experimentation.
Sure.
So can you tell us your favorite lyric off this EP and the meaning behind it?
Man. God, that's a hard one, dude.
Yeah.
I really like a lot of what this EP lyrically, well, I guess all of it really, was kind of focused on a pretty specific experience. I had come out of a relationship, and it was a really traumatic experience for everyone involved in it, and not in a like, I don't know how to explain this kindly, like no one did anything wrong kind of thing. It was circumstances out of everyone's control. It was just a really traumatic experience. And the next time I sort of like opened up and allowed myself to be vulnerable in the presence of someone else, it was a really, really, it was not the right person to allow myself to be that way with. And I spent a lot of time after it trying to kind of figure out like why, like it's very out of character for me to surround myself with someone that's like not gonna, at this point in my life. When I was 25, I had lots of people around me that were very bad for me, but now it's not like me to have someone in my life that doesn't enrich my life in some way, that doesn't provide me with support and positive energy. And but I did, and I just kept coming back for more, and it was just very strange for me. And so lyrically, I really examined that and broke it down on this record. And I love the line in Brighton that says, "I will elevate the uninvited so that I can feel a goddamn thing."
Wow.
That's a very good line.
Yeah.
I was, when I wrote that, I just felt like, holy, that's it. That's exactly, that's the whole thing. That's the whole entire experience in one line of lyrics. So I feel like that one's pretty impactful if you unpack it,
Definitely.
Oh, 100%. Jesus. All right. So could you tell us where your headspace was at while you were writing the EP?
Yeah, for sure. It was, the pandemic was just ripping, and I was very sad and confused. And I had a really interesting sort of life, blip on the radar where I had in late 2019, I had moved back to California for the first time in 6 years. I'd been in Nashville, and with my sort of goal in mind of getting into film composition, film scoring and stuff. My sister lives in Los Angeles with my niece and nephew, and I just felt like maybe it was time to give it another try. So I sold my house in Tennessee, and I moved to California, and then I was only there, from like October to March, and the pandemic hit. And it's really expensive to live in California.
Yeah.
And there's a widespread misconception that if you have a song on the radio one time in your life, you're
set.
You fly on private jets, right?
Exactly,
So I was terrified, as far as like, just, I was financially terrified. I was professionally terrified. We all were. I mean, not just, it's not specific to musicians, but, it was a scary time. I had one tour booked in the summer of 2020 that, or we were in the process of booking, that was really going to take care of the year for me. I have the unique ability now to just grab an acoustic guitar and go out and play shows if I want. And it can really help me, continue to be able to work in here by going out to do that. Well, that's gone now, and I didn't know what to do. And I ended up going back to Jacksonville, Florida, where I grew up for the first time since I was like 19. And I got set up in a rental property that my parents own. And I was a mile away from my parents' house, spent more time with them than I have since I was in high school. I would go over there every night for dinner and hang out with them. And so the pandemic was really, very much, quarantined for me, like all the way through 2020, because I didn't want to put my parents' health at risk. So no matter how serious or not serious I would have taken it, I don't know, but I took it very seriously because of them. So I was super alone the whole year. And I think you can hear that loneliness on the record. And it wasn't necessarily even a bad thing. I really grew a lot through that time. I started meditating every day, and I was exercising a lot again for the first time in a while. Just didn't have anything else to do. And I did kind of channel it into some positive things. And making the music was like, it was just such a good thing to have, to be able to get up every day and make some coffee and get in the studio and work on something. And so I think I was really able to capture all of the negative things that were happening mentally, and also all of the positive changes I was making, and like create music in the midst of that storm. And so it was a very unique writing process, unlike any I'd ever gone through before,
Yeah.
Very interesting. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this EP for the first time? Should they do it in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on, party
in the
EP?
dark? In the dark with headphones on, all the way through, start to finish.
Definitely.
Start to finish.
Okay.
It is designed to be played for, like, you need to hear the Swim Back first and Union Chapel last. It's supposed to be that way,
Definitely.
Yeah. And how did you listen to this EP for the first time?
Very much the same way, because I had the first 4 tracks for for over a year. They were done, and I just had them, and fans that have been a part of my Patreon community have had them as well. But I added that 5th instrumental track last summer, sent that off to get mastered, and then I actually kind of did the spacing between the songs, how far apart they are when you listen, and had that all remastered together. So the first time I got to do it, I got to pour a glass of wine and just sit back here in the studio and let it rip. And it was pretty rad. I mean, it was, one of my favorite things about the record is the string work that I did. I'm practicing that a lot as I'm trying to get into scoring and composing. So I have a lot of sessions sitting around that no one will probably ever hear, where I'm just practicing writing strings and learning how, in Yellow Card, Sean did all of that. And he was insanely talented at composing and arranging full string sections. And so I'm kind of learning on my own I don't have real string players here, but these days, if you get the right stuff, some of the sample libraries that are out there are, all of the strings on the EP are digital. They're software strings. And I still to this day when I listen to them, I can't believe it. I can't believe that it's not real strings. I mean, it is real strings. They're actually real sampled strings, but you know, to know that it's not players in here that were playing the music I wrote, that I was playing it on a keyboard and arranging it. So that's one of my favorite things about the record is the string sections. Like if you are in here and I can like mute everything except for the strings, it's pretty fucking cool. Like there's when I would be hanging out streaming with patrons, a lot of times I would or streaming on Twitch or whatever, and I was just working on strings, everyone would in the chat would just be like, dude, just release that. Like just do only the strings. You know? So I had a lot of fun doing the strings. And when I listened back throughout, you know, in full, it starts so string heavy with the swim back and it ends so string heavy with Union Chapel. I think it kind of ties itself off in a really cool way.
Sure. Oh my God. So this one should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this EP for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less. As fast as you can.
Ambient. Electronic.
Okay. All right.
And emotional.
Emotional.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
So in that same train of thought, but not as much pressure, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want your listeners to have while going through this EP?
Well, I think that because so many of the people that are going to be listening to this are Yellow Card fans, you know, that have come along for the ride, or maybe are checking in for the first time. You know, if I have a record company behind this one for the first time, of all the 3 records I've put out, the first 2 I just did myself, and this one has a little bit more. I mean, I'm doing interviews all day for this thing. It's crazy. And I didn't really do much of that on the first 2. So there's a little bit more exposure for this. So I think people going like, oh, you know, the guy from Yellow Card has a record out. I'm going to check it out. I hope that, that the sound of it, you know, the style, the genre, whatever the word is that you want to use, kind of opens people's minds to it, you know, to maybe trying something new. It's funny because I think like if you play, I'm never going to solve this algorithm problem. If you play the EP once it's out on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, I think it's going to go like from, you know, from Brighton to like state champs. Like it's not going to take you to Christian Loeffler and Olafur Arnolds and all these like all these guys that I love that have inspired me musically and where I'm at now, which it should though, because that's, you know, that's the world that I want it to live in. But I, you know, I've talked a lot about the influences on it on the record. I have a pretty cool long 400 something song long playlist on my Spotify page that has a lot of those artists and their records on it. And so I hope people just kind of go, I hope it's like for me this whole door opened for me into this world of music because, my super close friend Ryan Mendez from Yellow Card gave me a record back in like 2009 or 10 or something. And it was the first electronic record that I'd ever really been recommended or given. I just never thought that my mind was going to be open to that kind of music. I was such a rock kid. And so he gave me a record called Immunity by an artist named John Hopkins, who is an absolute pioneer. I mean, the guy is I don't even know how to describe what he does. It's so groundbreaking. Every piece of music he makes. And so Immunity is a really, really incredible record. And I'm a huge Coldplay fan. I always have been since Parachutes. I've been a huge fan. And Hopkins has worked with Coldplay a lot. And I didn't know that, but he started working with them kind of in the Viva La Vida era, which is around that time, 2008, 9, you know. So Ryan, I think, who's been into electronic music since he was a kid, he has a very broad palette of music and always has. I think he had this sort of idea of like, you're ready now. Like I've wanted to share this with you for a long time, but I think you're finally ready. Because he was able to say, this is the guy who does a lot of programming and you know, tracks and stuff for Coldplay. So you should check it out. And to be fully honest, I never looked back. That record changed my life. I mean, I went down the rabbit hole and drifted so far from rock and roll being my, what my listening palette, like it's wild. It's wild what one record can do. Specifically the last song on the record, the title track, Immunity. It's just like, it'll make you cry every time. And and there's no words in it. It's insane, and I'd never experienced that before. I thought of electronic music, and I've also learned a lot about it to say that this is not me, taking a dig at or like saying it's not good. But for me, electronic music was just was nightclubs, and like dance music, which isn't really my scene. And I had no idea that there was this whole world of like cinematic kind of ambient experimental music that has the dance beat underneath it. And I didn't realize how much I was going to like the dance beat. I fucking love it.
Exactly.
It's just, I don't love the more like aggressive, synth, like heavy synth driven. Like I like the more ambient stuff. And that's Hopkins that's his thing. That's what he does. And so he just opened the door to so many artists and so much music that I had no idea was going to be a part of my life. And I find this EP is the first time that I've personally stepped out and said, all right, like I'm gonna make that. Like I'm gonna try to make my own music in that world. And so I hope that when people listen to it, it can have that. I'm never gonna compare myself to John Hopkins, but have the Hopkins effect on them as it did on me. And maybe someone who's only listened to rock and roll their whole life goes, oh wow, there's a lot of sounds in here that I really enjoy.
Oh yeah.
So for these last couple of questions, we're actually going to shift away from music, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
Great. So we're actually going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh, last meal?
Last meal.
God. All right. I'm gonna give mom some love. My last meal would be my mom's white bean chicken chili with my grandmother's cornbread recipe that my mom now makes. Because it's just you just dip it in the cornbread in there and you put butter all over it. And I don't think I would do some grand fancy thing. I think I would want to have it be like a family recipe that,
That's very wholesome.
That's good.
But I don't know. I'd be on death row, so how wholesome am I? Right?
You got a point.
Fair enough.
You have a point there. Yeah.
And drink, I would get. I would probably get a bottle of. You're not going to know what this is probably, but a bottle of Justin Isosceles, Justin Winery in California. It's the best, and that's the stuff you get like someone for their like 50th wedding anniversary because it's so freaking stupid expensive. I would get that and have it.
We'll just act like we know what that is.
I'm a wino.
So if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
One fictional world?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Like, is it the whole galaxy, like the whole universe of the fiction, or is it like a planet or a place?
Are you thinking of
like
Star Wars?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, then yeah, it would be the whole universe. So like, yeah, you could go to Tatooine and you could get on a ship and just go anywhere else.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's tough though. I will say that since the film came out, I'm reading the Dune books and I am obsessed. But yes, Star Wars. If I could go be in the Star Wars galaxy, that's my dream.
That'd be pretty sick.
It's right here. I was just talking about my podcast, so.
Oh my god, that's
cool.
So
sick.
Oh, yes. I love
this
that
is
so much.
The one that I built at Galaxy's Edge.
That's so fucking cool.
I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to build one of those. Yeah. Is it white or is it like a very light purple?
It's white.
Okay, that's cool.
But I have it comes apart and you can change the crystal out inside of it, the kyber crystal, and it changes the color of the blade when you change the crystal.
That's so
cool.
Sick. Oh my god.
Cool.
So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said that it is the most important question.
All right.
What is your favorite color?
Yeah, my favorite color is the absence of color. I mean, it's black. I mean, I'm just, that's my parents will never understand my wardrobe, like why there's just only gray and black. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if I have to pick a color, I'll go. I'm a diehard, born and raised Georgia Bulldogs fan. national champions for the first time in 41 years this
Hell
year.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My mother and I were embraced weeping tears at the end of the game. I'm so glad I got to be with my mom for the game. That was awesome.
Mhm.
That's great.
But so a red. If I have to pick a real color, I'll pick red.
All right.
Red.
Because Georgia colors are red and black.
So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, I would. We talked a lot about the EP, which I'm really grateful. I appreciate you guys focusing so much on it and helping me promote it. But I have a podcast with my friend Adam Russell from Story of the Year and Nick Gambarian from Bayside. Today, Thursday, February 3rd, is our 100th episode.
Damn, congrats.
wow.
And we have a lot of fun talking about Star Wars. So if you're a casual fan, if you're a hardcore fan, we have we get a lot of positive support and reviews and appreciation for the podcast, in that we try to be very inclusive and not be know-it-alls. You know, we're learning as you're learning, and so I think any level of fan can enjoy listening to the pod, and we try to really focus on positivity. The fan base has been so split and toxic in so many ways for so long since the Disney acquisition, and we just don't play that game. We love Star Wars, so we try to talk about you know, how to find joy, and Nick has such an amazing line that we remembered last night on the pod while we were recording. Once he said, "Imagine enjoying the thing you enjoy." You know, so we try to focus on that. You know, like it's just all about the love of the story and the characters, and so check it out. It's called Thank the Maker, and you can listen anywhere you get podcasts. And we drop episodes every Thursday.
Hell yeah! All right. Well, thank you for now. This has been William Ryan Key, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.